Hey guys, and welcome back to Quality Shot Tennis. And I'm extremely honored to be joined by Hall of Fame coach and USPTA Master Professional Rick Macci. Rick has coached 5 number 1 players in Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Maria Sharapova, Jennifer Capriati, and Andy Roddick, and of course has his academy as well in Florida. And he's the youngest person to be included in the USPTA Hall of Fame. Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I just jumped off the court, so I'm a free agent, and I'm yours all afternoon. So we're gonna have a lot of fun.
How was it on court?
Well, it's a little toasty today. It's 90 degrees, but listen, I've been out there since age 22, so I'm like a lizard. Though the heat doesn't bother me, and that's my living room. I love being on the tennis court, and I still teach 50 hours a week, still to this day. So no, it's great to be on the tennis court.
Amazing. I'm hoping we get that weather this weekend here in the UK, where I'm in London. How has it been? So for you, do you mind just going into a little bit about the academy and like what you do there, and like how's it founded? How do you get your love for the sport?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm probably the last of the Mohicans. I started this in 1985. And through the success of Tommy Ho. He was probably the most dominant junior player ever. He won 15 gold balls by age 15. Through his success, people go, that guy's pretty smart. So it seemed like more kids started to come. And then Capriati's dad, Stefano, one of my best friends ever, he brought Jennifer. And then people wanted to live with me and all that good stuff. I said, whoa. So here we are all these years later. You figure it out as you go. But what's unique about Rick Macci Tennis Academy in Boca Raton, Florida, we have a very different model than anybody in the world. Okay. The teaching methodology, my partner, Dr. Brian Gordon, has his PhD in biomechanics, did his thesis on this stuff. We've always been on cutting edge, 15 years ago. So not only the science part is baked in extra crispy, but my name's on the door and I still teach 50 hours a week. So the model was very different. There's 12 other coaches, 3 fitness people. We don't really do boarding. We're not a glorified boarding school, but we have thousands of kids that come throughout the year. Many have moved here and they're regulars. A lot of good young kids, and people want me or the team to put Humpty Dumpty together. We're pretty much the technical guys. Get the optimal strokes at a young age, besides all the other attributes. So the model I have is very different, but it's personalized. Never more than 50 kids a week. I give a group speech to all the parents and kids every day. Besides, I do a lot of private stuff. Okay. We have sparring. And what's interesting for the stronger kids, we have a $10,000 prize money tournament every weekend. So 52 weekends a year, there's a $10,000 prize money tournament here at the facility, a UTR event. And believe it or not, 3 years ago, Ben Shelton played. We had like 7 or 8 guys that have played the US Open that played the event. So something for everybody. It's a public facility. I turned it into the #1 public park in the United States of America. It's like Disneyland and Candyland and motivational land. You can rent a court for $5. And on the next court, Coco Gauff could be playing. So it's a very different dynamic. The place is unbelievable. But at the end of the day, my name is on the door, and I still do everything personally with the kids besides certified coaches. And after all these years, I can still handle all the parents. So I'm still hanging in there.
Wow, sounds phenomenal. And the parents, I'll touch on that soon, actually, and ask you about the parents. The parents are always interesting. But Rick, you're talking about the coaching, and it sounds like you've got incredible setup there with the kids, right? So the ones that you are coaching closely with, and you're giving them your personal, which it sounds like there's a lot of kids that you're doing it with.
Yeah.
Do you have like a set philosophy that this is the way that our academy runs, and this is how we think you should play, or is it we've got this philosophy and actually, in terms of players, you tailor your coaching depending on a child's mentality or player's mentality and the attributes? Like, how do you battle that?
Well, first off, that's a great question, and that's why the private stuff is a little bit different than the group stuff. As you know, the group, you're going to be drilling and grooving and point play, and you can break it down a little different. But when you got 4 or 5 people on a court, that's a whole different animal, because you can't stop the train and start doing big technical things. So that's one aspect. But what I do privately, I break it down microscopically. I put the technical part together, the biomechanics, the 3 big ticket items, forehand, backhand, serve. But there's a lot of mental training. I'm more of a life coach than I think a tennis coach. The strategic part is a little different depending on the level. Like, I probably have the number 1 10-year-old boy in the United States, number 1 12-year-old girl in Europe, the number 1 8-year-old probably in the world. There's so many good young kids here, but I also teach one of the best 80-year-olds in the country, So I teach anybody, anytime. So your question is great, because it depends on who's in front of me, what their needs are, and then I kind of address it from that point of view. Because, not everybody's the same. And some people, they want to just be the best they can be. Some of them, I definitely am doing this to be a pro. Some of them just want to get the best college scholarship. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a smorgasbord or a whole cafeteria of things that I do. I really don't have a set thing. I kind of react accordingly. And then if I see them the next day or whenever, then I react, because it's an ebb and flow. I'm always talking to the kids and the parents of what we got to do. And then I prioritize it. But my philosophy has always been different. I get the cake, I put it in the oven. Okay. Then when it comes out, I put some icing on it. And if they go on the pro tour, if someone can put some sprinkles on it, I'd rather build the box than sit in the box. I'm a little different, and I have a vision, and that's what I've done with Kenin, Venus, Serena, Capriati, Sharapova. I kind of build a pro player at a young age, and I instill confidence. I instill courage and belief before they have courage, confidence, or belief. I build it differently. I'm not playing for you got to win today. Easier said than done, because as well as I do, when people aren't winning, after a couple of weeks, they're going down the street. I mean, it happens to me. It happens to everybody. I get it, but I'm all about this is junior development, not junior final destination. It's not where you start. It's where you finish. And to back one more thing up, even the way I trained Venus and Serena, I was always talking about Navratilova or Kleisters or Henin or whoever, and these girls were 11 and 12 years old. I was talking, well, they would have got that. We got to have a little more juice on that. Don't worry about it. 3 more inches, 10 more pounds, you'll be there, you'll be set, bang, you'll deliver. So I do this very differently. I try to instill the courage and confidence. Now, all that being said, if you have some guy pulling the trigger when he's falling in the bushes, you got to reset the point. I get it. But a lot of people train kids not to lose, and I train kids to try to win.
Okay, gotcha. So it's about looking at the longer term, right? So building them for the future.
And it's difficult, especially when you got the parent who wants the W. I could name 20 kids that were number 1 in the nation, 12, 14, 16, and you never heard of them, So you got to have a little bit of success. I get it. But at the end of the day, you got to fail. You got to fail if you want to succeed.
It's about trusting the process then, Rick. Is that right?
What now?
It's about trusting the process.
Absolutely. You got to process the process.
For sure. You said you're more of a life coach than a tennis coach.
Absolutely.
So what would you say? How important is the mental side of tennis? If you had to put like a percentage on it,
that's the most important. That's the most important thing. Everybody listen to this. How many people they've lost to someone, and you have a better forehand, a better backhand, and serve? You're going, how did that happen? Because they run, they sweat, they shut up, they forget, and they're just a dog, And if you can't remember to forget your history, let me tell you, this is the hardest sport because you don't have any teammates. That's why some people do better in doubles, because they have a therapist on the court. When they miss a shot, they can hug and kiss and high five, and that emotion goes right out the window. That's why some people are better in doubles, not because they volley better or have better serve. That's the mental part. They're just bang, they're right there. So the mental is the most important. And you got to get people to buy in. And for any parent or coach watching this, just watch what greatness does. Watch what Djokovic does. Watch what Iga does. Watch what they do after they lose a point. They made a mistake, just like you did, or any of your students. How do they handle it? It's mind control. People have no idea how they've almost like it didn't happen. That's how quick it's, they're like a machine, okay? Because they're in a routine. So at the end of the day, instead of sports psychology or whatever they're going to listen to, you want to get smarter, you want to get greater, look at greatness. Look what they do. And I have the kids imitate that. And Iga even said that. She cloned herself after Rafa. So people don't give her enough credit for her mental strength. They see her little steps and brutal angles. She has holes in her game, but the big ticket items are there, and that's why she dominates, especially on clay.
Yeah, 100%. The mental side seems to be so key because I feel like, and I wanted to ask you on tour, I feel like on the ATP and WTA, so both tours really, I feel like there's probably around maybe 100, 200 players. They've probably got pretty similar skill set, but what sets the top players apart is the mental side and obviously the tactical as well. But the mental side is really it's so big when it comes to that.
Absolutely. Listen, when you see people hit the ball, you could take number 1,000 and they could be ripping forehands cross court with Djokovic. And you're going, that guy's pretty good, And if you knew he was 1,000 and Joker was 1, when they played, you would know why Joker's 1 and the guy's 1,000. Everybody can hit the ball. See, there's a big difference between a hitter and a player. A player plays. Now, what that means is how you handle failure, how you handle mistakes, how you handle pressure under the big points. And you got to train yourself to do this. And the best thing I can tell anybody, any coach that's listening to this, your number one job is to get your players to be the best competitors they can be. When you're all about the competition, like Roddick, when I had Roddick, or obviously Venus and Serena, we can talk about that later. When you're all about the competition, anybody, anytime, anywhere, you're going to be what I call more bulletproof. When pressure is your best friend, like Alcaraz, you're going to perform to your ability more. Listen, everybody gets nervous, but you don't get afraid. And you'll stay near that ideal performance state. You won't disappear, into London, over Big Ben. You'll come back. And so everybody has to understand that part. If you're a great competitor and you're not afraid to fail or lose, you're going to win more. And this is the number one thing. Okay, you can learn with the right instruction, and that's in the eye of the beholder. The optimal maybe forehand, backhand, and then the biomechanics of a serve. The strategy, that's different depending on what the coach wants you to do. But how you handle this stuff. And you made a great analysis. There's so many players, okay? They kind of look the same. They might even be better athletes. How many Grand Slams does Kyrgios have? How many Grand Slams does Monfils have? Just because you're a great athlete, great wheels, good technique, what happened? You know what I'm saying? And if you look at, say, Rafa, Federer, and Nadal, okay, there's a little more than half the time, okay, they're going to win the points. Half. You would think it's like 80 or 90 maybe in your own mind. They only win half of the points. Maybe, I don't know what the percentage is, 55. It's those key points and handling pressure, and you got to train yourself like that. And so if you're all about the competition and you love the battle, you're going to be more bulletproof. To me, that's the number one thing that every coach has to instill in their player.
Yeah, it's weird because tennis is one of the only sports where you can lose more points than your opponent and still win the match.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy, of course, to say. But as a coach, Rick, then when you're sitting down with players and they're struggling in the big moments, in those crunch moments of matches where it's really important, those pivotal points, what do you say to them after? How do you approach it? Do you tell them to play a bit safer? Do you tell them to be courageous? Do you tell them to, do X, Y, and Z? What's your kind of theory behind approaching, coaching a player and telling them this is how you should approach the crunch moments?
Well, first off, awesome question. You ready for this answer? Smile. I tell them to smile. See, I'm not going to tell them probably to be more courageous, because if they're nervous, you know what's going to happen. They're going to launch one into the bushes. So, but then again, if you're training yourself always at big moments to try not to lose, you can get some W's in the 12 and 14, but you'll never reach your ability, and it's like, it's one of those things that I just teach courage, and positive errors and stuff like that. But what I tell them to do is smile. I know that I changed the climate inside the player, and they're going, well, how can I smile? It's a big moment. See, they got it backwards. So I got to change it from the inside. And people, here's a perfect example. If I had someone hitting the ball against Alcaraz, which he's not going to probably hit with them, and they hit it in the net, they would feel a certain way. But if they hit the ball into the net, hitting against a 10-year-old, they would feel a certain way. But it still went into the net. I don't understand that. See what I mean? And that's why people, when I ask the kids, how many of you play better against better players? Everybody raise their hand. And how many of you play worse against worse players? They all raise their hand. And I'm going, that's backwards. You should play better against worse players because you're better. And you should play worse against better players because they're better. But they think of it differently. You know what I'm saying? If that was the case, Djokovic wouldn't have anybody to play with and he'd hit against the wall. Same with Iga. You know what I mean? So you got to explain it. And this is what I do to all the kids. Got to love pressure, and I try to create situations where I get them uncomfortable. And that's why I knew. And that's why I took the chance, in 1991 on those two little girls from Compton, California. I saw they were bulletproof. It's what I saw on the inside. Because what I saw on the outside, there was arms and legs and hair and beads flying everywhere. But I saw it on the inside, and then I saw physically where it could go. And when I saw that, I thought they had a lot of boxes checked. But if I wouldn't have saw that mental part, where I thought they could really handle pressure, because they were just amazing competitors, even though they weren't playing a tournament, that's why I took the chance, and the rest is history.
So I was actually going to ask what your initial impressions of Serena and Venus. So was it that they had that steely determination, and that's what really warmed you to them then?
Absolutely, and obviously you could imagine how many times I gotta tell this story. It's like beyond crazy. I get a call in 1991, some guy, Richard Williams. Okay, I didn't even know who it was. Okay, and we start talking. He goes, I got two daughters, Venus and Serena. And we're from Compton, California. We want you to come out here and take a look. I'm going, whoa, you either come to me or I see you at a junior tournament. Okay. And listen to this. This is crazy. Think about this. I never went in my life to go see someone. Capriati was gone. She was already on the pro tour at 14. I had like 25 nationally ranked juniors. I had no idea. It was May. Summer was about ready to start, a little slow. I had no idea why I decided to do this. And an agent told me Venus was in the New York Times like 6 months earlier, this little girl who was really good. I was just curious. So he goes, Rick, if you come to Compton, I promise I won't get you shot. I said, this guy's the funniest guy I've ever met. That was actually in the movie, okay, that line. And I don't know why I decided to go to Compton. Obviously, looking back, the best vacation I ever took was Compton, California. So I go there. Listen to this. I got to tell, this is crazy. I go there just like yesterday. I go to the hotel that night. Venus, Serena, Richard and Orsine come in. Venus on one leg, Serena on the other leg, hugging, kissing, just like you see in the movie. This guy pulls out a piece of paper. I thought it was in a deposition. This guy started grilling me. I'm going, whoa. But then again, I said, I really respect this guy, because if he's going to let someone in their circle, even though I didn't know how good they were, he wanted a father figure, a role model, someone who's been there, done that. Because let's face it, Capriati was the best junior player ever in the United States. And this was 1988 when she won the national 18s as a 12-year-old. That record still stands today. So at the end of the day, we went through this dog and pony show, 2 hours. He goes, we're picking you up tomorrow, 7:30. We're going to East Compton Hills Country Club. I go, okay. So they pick me up at 7 in the morning. I go out, that bus, the exact same bus you saw in the movie. I get in the passenger side. Listen to this. I sit down. I get harpooned in the buttock. There's a spring sticking up. I'm going, whoa, what am I doing in Compton, California? I was at a 5-star resort, Greenleaf Golf and Tennis Resort. I was a director of tennis. Now I'm definitely on the other side of the tracks. I look in the back. There's Venus and Serena like this. There's McDonald's wrappers, Burger King, Dirty Laundry, ball hoppers. It was like, I don't know. It was like crazy. Okay. And I'm going, this is crazy stuff. So now we go to East Compton Hills Country Club. 10 minutes into the ride, I'm going, this is a strange place for a country club. We pull up to a park. Listen to this crap. We pull up to a park, just like you saw in the movie. We pull up to a park. Okay. We get out. There's guys shooting baskets and stuff like that. People passed out. Pot everywhere. People smoking, drinking. I'm going, whoa. Okay. So we go across the basketball court. It parts like the Red Sea. Listen, 1991. They go, hey, Richard. Hey, King Richard. I'm going, who called this guy King Richard? You know, I didn't know what that. Hey, VW, Venus Williams. Hey, Jamaica, because Serena's middle name is Serena Jamaica Williams. So the New York Times was there earlier, and they were like maybe little celebrities, even though they haven't done anything. Okay. So we go across the basketball court. We go onto the court, and I had a box of Wilson balls shipped there. He goes, Rick, we don't use new balls. We use old balls. I want them bending and digging them out. I go, okay, I got it, but it was a little different. So now we go onto the tennis court. Me and you wouldn't play on it. Chipped up, holes in the net, you know, looked like a bomb went off. We go over to the net post. There's that shopping cart, same one you saw in the movie. Well, maybe not the same one, but the same shopping cart. He had 7 chains wrapped around the cart. Took him 20 minutes to get the chains off. He goes, hey, Rick, it'll be gone in the morning. I got to secure this thing. I want them to work at it if they're going to steal from me. So he puts all these old balls in the cart. Now VW and Serena on the other side. So I start doing drills. Now remember, I'm getting near the end here. Then remember, I had Capriati, Poetry in Motion, racket back in the parking lot, low center of gravity. The ball was on a string. Great fundamentals by the late, great Jimmy Everett, Chrissy's dad. You got to understand, my blueprint for greatness was better than anybody in the world. Now I'm looking at these 2 girls doing drills. It was crazy. Like I said, arms, legs, hair, back foot, tentacles flying everywhere. Serena's looking in the air, waving at a bird. I'm going, whoa. They were okay, but they were top 100 in the nation, which isn't, I see that movie every day. So now that was 1 hour. And I'm going, what in God's name am I doing in Compton, California? I'm serious. I'm going, this is brutal. So now I said, let's play competitive points. It was more about Venus, like you saw in the movie. So me and Serena played points against Venus. Okay. The whole landscape changed. This is crazy. And I need everybody to listen to it. It freaked me out. And I never freak out. I'm pretty like, boom. I freaked out. I never saw. Once I said, let's keep score. We're going to play competitive points. I never saw 2 little girls try so hard to get the ball. Venus was like 5'9". Her nose was that far off the ground trying to get a ball. And it wasn't because she was uncoordinated. The ball was 10 feet out. Serena would still be running. I'm going, this is crazy. There was like a race. Like I saw just like, but when we did drills, it was a train wreck. And when we competed, I'm going, the whole thing changed. They started popping the popcorn, extra butter, the feet. The preparation got better. It wasn't filet mignon, but it wasn't hamburger. You know, I'm going, whoa. Then I started thinking, 6 feet, 160, 5'11", 145. Richard's pretty big guy. I go, it freaked me out. I not only, right then and there, when I saw this rage inside these two little girls, I go, Richard, come here. So he comes over. I go, let me tell you something. It was more about Venus because Serena was in outer space. She loves it when I say it. So, because she went to outer space at the end of her career. I go, let me tell you something. You got the next female Michael Jordan on your hand. And he puts his arm around me. He goes, no, brother, man. I got the next two. Okay. And then Venus goes out the gate, walks on her hands for 5 feet, does backward cartwheels. I'm going, whoa. And remember, with Serena, she had all the time in the world that I saw. Most coaches won't understand that. And she kind of knew where the ball was going, even though she's little and couldn't get to the ball and she was all over technically. I not only, right then and there, I got all these articles in my office to prove it, and video, did I think they could both be number one in the world? I thought they could transcend the sport, because in the early 90s, if you were big and strong, you weren't nimble. You know, they were going to bring a whole different athlete to pro tennis. Okay. It freaked me out. It really did. I never, and I haven't saw it to this day, even though I have someone now that's kind of in the neighborhood. So the moral of this story is 4 months later, we teamed up, did the contract. It's one thing to say, I think you're good or you're good, but to put hundreds of thousands and millions into something, they could have got hurt. I could have been wrong, even though I knew I wasn't. And it didn't just happen every day. And they were different because they technically wanted to kind of do things your own way. But I want everybody to understand this. You never judge a book by the cover. The cover could be amazing, the book bad. The cover amazing, the book bad. See, when I saw on the outside, I didn't see it. But once I saw them compete, I knew that these two little girls were going to change history.
That's an amazing story. Thank you. That's incredible. So you took the chance and they revolutionized tennis. So there you go. The rest is history.
Yeah.
No, it's unbelievable.
One more thing, then at the after party, after the red carpet and the after party, like Venus and Serena, they gave me the best compliment always. They go, Rick, she goes, Daddy and you just brainwashed us to be number one. I never talked about, like I said earlier, I never talked about other 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. It was always about people who were number one, like already on the tour. They would have got that. You got to do this. So it was just a different environment. Now, you got to have the thoroughbred to maybe win the Derby. You can't say that if the kid's not good, because you got to be in the moment. It was always different. You will be number one. You will be number one. You're a better athlete. They looked at things differently. And then obviously I took that athleticism to seek and destroy and play in your face.
That's phenomenal. What did you think of Richard when you first met him then?
An amazing father. He was on a mission. Once I got to know him, and what I mean by that, once they moved to Greenleaf, okay, he became my best friend ever, simply because even though he was stubborn, and every day he'd get mad, happy, sad, glad, bad, you name it. I mean, he was set in his ways, but at the end of the day, that's one of the things that I do. Listen, to deal with Richard Williams, Yuri Sharapova, Stefano Capriati, okay, all Alex Kenin, you know what I mean? All these people that I've dealt with, because it's usually daddy's little girl, the father protects, I should be in the Hall of Fame just putting up with those guys, but no, I love Richard. And here's why. The most incredible father I ever met. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Every single night when VW and Meek, when they left the court, Rick, thank you very much, and gave me a hug. And trust me, not every day was rainbow, lollipop, and sunshine. It was brutal sometimes. Practice bad. And they brought their books every day to the court. And if it rained, Richard made them go to my office and study. This guy was teaching life lessons every day. And as well as I do, most parents are, and they're not even anywhere near that. I respect him so much as a dad. We would play basketball all the time. We were best friends. It was me and him against the world. You know what I mean? I'm out there saying how great they're going to be. You're going to be better than Capriati. You're going to be number one, you know, and I had the platform and I'm making them legendary and they don't even play junior tournaments. You know, I wasn't the flavor of the month either, but it didn't matter. Richard became my best friend. Venus and Serena were like my own daughters. We were like that. And he's just a great guy, but I can deal with anybody. But believe me, some people, if you can't, some of the best coaching I did, and everybody should remember this, is just to keep your mouth shut.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough, to be fair. That really is. John Bernthal portrayed you obviously in the movie. So I need to ask you, Rick, how accurate was that portrayal? Was that really you?
Well, I don't know. You're getting me right now. Well, let me tell you the first thing. Everything was spot on. The movie was, Will Smith was better than Richard. Everything was so true. I can't even tell you the walk, the talk, the nuances, the subtleties. The only difference was this. Bernthal, okay, who I talked to many times, he had this bushy mustache that was like a shrubbery. Mine was like yours. I had this little piece of AstroTurf. My daughter's here. She'll attest to that. I had this little piece of AstroTurf. So the mustache was way off, and I didn't know I was that wired all the time, but people say, yes, you are. Okay. And I've seen the movie obviously 5 or 6 times, and I always see it differently. So it was so spot on. But what I loved about the movie, or the way it came across, it showed how much I cared about the girls, even though I had to put up with Richard, you know what I mean? Because he was very stubborn, and it showed what I cared, how much I cared, but I took a crazy risk. It showed. Well, I think in the past, maybe before the movie, some people that kind of know the story, they kind of had a feel, but it went from kind of Compton to center court. And they didn't realize, without Rick Macy and putting all this financial backing, listen, hitting partners, taekwondo, ballet, my time, 4 hours a day. That's 4 hours I'm not with someone else. You got to understand, they got filet mignon for 4 years, every single day. They were playing against people every day that would beat them 0-0. Their training was crazy. And you know as I do, the cards you're dealt at a young age, those are usually with you forever. It's hard to break muscle memory when you get older. You can tweak things a little bit, but no, it's like Bernthal did an amazing job. They watched video. He read my book. I thought the whole thing was incredible, because anybody listening, so true. It shocked me. And it's because of Isha. I need to give her a shout out, the older sister, because both her and Lindrea were at the academy too, because I moved the whole family. Isha was there every day, and she had her pulse going back down memory lane of the relationship between me and Richard and what really happened. Because they could fudge some things. It shocked me. It really did, how spot on it was. And everybody has to know, a lot of biopics are not like that.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal film. When I watched it, I was astounded. I thought it was a great watch as well. And considering that now you're saying how accurate it was, it just makes it even more amazing to watch. You just said that they were doing, mixed martial arts and taekwondo, and what benefit does that have as tennis players? Does it, like, you tell me, a ballet, what these different doing these different types of sports? Well, like, first, what does it help? Is it footwork? Like, what is it?
No, it's one-stop shopping. Every day they were with a professional boxer in a sand pit for 30 minutes, okay? And it was to work on footwork. The sand is there for resistance, but they were shaking and baking, bopping and weaving, juking, and, so it's more for footwork, cardio, but it's also because Richard always was in this make you rougher and tougher. I mean, not that he was going to punch you because you had a bag. It was more to mix it up, and remember, this was 1991. And remember, the girls were already going to be big, fast, strong, quick, mobile, flexible, and agile. I already saw that where this was going, but I wanted to make them more athletic. They would go around the court in a hula hoop using little dumbbells. They would throw the football every day. I did a lot of athletic enhancement, okay, because I was on a mission. Not only did I have a vested interest, but I'm trying to build greatness. I'm doing everything possible instead of just being with a fitness trainer or whatever. So it's because they had to have the repetitions of playing tennis. They weren't going to play soccer or guard someone playing basketball. They didn't have time for that because we needed repetitions because they needed the stroke mechanics. They needed to hit zillions of balls. So it was more to build athletic enhancement. I actually then got the #1 kickboxer in Florida involved in this. It's just to mix it up and build athletic enhancement, which I probably didn't need to do, but it was fun. And if you don't keep your feet moving, then you're going to take a punch. You know what I'm saying? And I also had the girls play tag every day with the other kids, okay, in a sand pit. It's the most amazing thing for anybody listening. The kid can be tired, rough day at the office. They don't want to play anymore. Have all the kids play freeze tag. They're not tired anymore. They're having fun and smiling. You know what I mean? And so that's why I did those other things. I had them dribble the basketball around the back between the legs, coordinate the left thing. I had them brush their teeth with their left hand, comb their hair with the left hand, eat the cereal with the left hand. So I said, if you understand how to get your left coordinated, then your entire body will be all right. Did you get that? There's left, right?
Yeah.
No, I have everything. No, all these subtle things. Hey, if it helped, well, let me put it this way. It didn't hurt. How much it helps, I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to do this for everybody. And I'm not saying if I'm that type of coach, I'd say, listen, you come with me, don't play any junior tournaments, which I thought was crazy. They could have played. It didn't matter, but they were so competitive. I knew that they didn't need to compete. A lot of people need to learn how to win, as you know, and lose. They were so competitive. There was a piece of chicken on the table. They'd fight for each other. They were like so competitive. But some kids need to get better competitive skills. But I did all that athletic enhancement to build a better athlete and to have fun instead of just your normal fitness stuff. Plus, we were on the court a lot, 6 hours a day. They did because they needed repetitions because they need to hit a lot of balls.
That's amazing. You obviously got a flavor of being, on tour as a pro coach a little bit with Venus. So I wanted to ask you, you've got your academy and obviously you're coaching mainly in terms of like privately and, junior players. You're going to then, building them for the future. Have you ever been tempted to be on tour with a specific player and like traveling with them?
First off, I've had many, many offers through my career, okay, to coach people in the top 10, all right? But here's the way I'm put together, okay? If I'm going to build it, I'd rather carry it all the way to the finish line. And you know as I do, to start at 8, 9, 10 and be there at 20, especially if they get good, you start getting at the back of the line, agents, there's so many things that go involved in this. But I never had those aspirations to go with a guy or a gal simply because I'm not really a travel coach. I think you're going to help strategically. They're not going to make too many changes technically or biomechanically because the muscle memory is baked in extra crispy. It's hard to reprogram the reflexes when they're on the tour. So you're more like a manager. I don't want to be a travel buddy. I don't want to be part of an entourage. You know what I'm saying? But I know some people want that. Okay. But let's face it. The dirty work, the player is built, okay, from the time they start to the time they go on the tour. It can be enhanced mentally or strategically when you go on the tour. But I just never wanted to do that. But to take a step back, people come from all around the world here. I sleep on my own bed every night. I can hang out and pet my cat if I want to. So it's a little different. I get up every day, open up the park at 5. Now, to help someone out, whether it be Coco Gauff or whoever, from here, that would be different. To be like on a team, I could help anybody big time. But at the end of the day, I just never wanted to do that, because what happens, say you do that and they do good, and then when they do bad, you know what's going to happen? You're toast. Here I am. I still have the same business, amazing model, successful all these years, the model, because I haven't deviated. I just keep making it shinier. So even if I had an opportunity to do that with the top players in the world, I still wouldn't do it. It'd have to be fit into what I do. I can help you because virtual, or I can help in other ways, but to travel, no. That's never really been my cup of tea, because I got to run a business. And if I'm teaching 50 hours a week, you can imagine that drives the engine of the model that I have.
Of course, no, that makes sense. I wanted to ask, I thought that would be your answer, but it's interesting because obviously you're extremely knowledgeable and you've built an incredible academy, and you've coached all these amazing players. So it was just really something that I wanted to ask and see whether you would ever consider it. But
well, let me just elaborate, because I do have an 8-year-old. I know she is the scariest little creature I've ever taught. She took the place of Sofia Kenin. Kenin was the scariest little creature. Vlada, her rancher, she's from Ukraine. I not only coach her, but I represent her. I'm her agent also. So in the future, there could be that dynamic. But this little girl, I tell everybody, it's amazing. She has so many boxes checked: the dis-up speed, quickness. It's the best little kid I've ever seen. And if I can't make this little girl #1 in the world, I'm telling you, I did a bad job. So the travel part, who knows, where this is going to be 8 years from now or whenever. But you might go back to this podcast. Remember the name Vlada? It's crazy. She has over 200,000 followers on Instagram. The girl is incredible. Okay. And I'm not only changing her game and her strokes, I'm changing someone's life, because they got the heck out of Ukraine 2 years ago. And it's the best feeling in the world, especially at this stage of my life, to be able to do that. But I help everybody. It doesn't matter the level, but who knows? I might be doing a little bit more with her, because I'm not only her coach, but I'm representing her also.
No, of course, that makes sense. Yeah. Definitely have to check out her progress and see how she gets on, for sure.
You'll freak out.
I'm sure I will. In terms of you're talking about coaching being rewarding, so what's the most rewarding aspect of coaching then? Because is it taking someone who can't hold a racket and then you see them in a couple of years' time and they're playing at X level, or is it taking someone who is already at a high level and fine-tuning them? What's the most rewarding kind of feeling for you?
Well, first off, a lot of great questions. I love this question. My favorite student of all time, okay, is who's ever on the other side of the net, that hour, that minute, that second. And that's how I am. And I've been that way since age 22, since I started doing this. And here I am at age 69, and I still feel the same exact way. It's not Venus, Serena, Capriati, Roddick, Sharapova, Kenin, Moschina, Pierce, Ruud. I actually coached Christian Ruud, Casper's dad, back in the day. He was Norway's finest, and now he got kicked to the curb and his son's Norway's finest. So I just like helping people. You got to understand, I teach beginners. I teach adults. It's mainly kids and people on the pro tour. I have about 30 girls I work with on the tour and their coach, besides a handful of guys. I put kind of Darwin Blanche's game together at a young age. And I could go, there's a lot of players that I got my fingerprints all over. But the most rewarding thing is getting someone to change their mindset, not so much their forehand, backhand, or serve. To me, that's the easier part, to build a weapon if they listen, because I can expedite the learning curve. I can reverse engineer things and correct things very quickly if it's not too brutal, okay? But even if it's brutal, I keep finding a way. The most rewarding is if I can get someone to work harder, have a great attitude, run for every ball, not make excuses, clean their bedroom, treat people better, whatever their issues are, to me, that's the most rewarding. And that's what people come back and tell me. They don't tell me, hey, you really helped my forehand. They just tell me these type of things, how it's impacted their life, and they work harder and their whole mindset. Because I look at life through a different lens than a lot of people. Like I said, I'm more of a life coach. So when I get them, because I interact with all of them every day, because I'm there. That's the most rewarding thing. And so that's why I get up at 2 and, I have this routine and I run a half mile and I'm there every day. Today I started at 5 o'clock with the number one 12-year-old in Europe who I had for 3 hours, Sofia Kenin. She's like amazing. When I can change someone's mindset, okay, that's the most rewarding, because once I get into their head and I have them look at things differently, I can have a bigger impact than their parents, because that's a different voice. You know what I'm saying? And then I have the platform and the pedigree of kind of what I've done, and I just get people to change. They skip from the car to the court where before they were walking. I just get people to change. And that's what I do. I build greatness, but I try to get in people's heads and have them look at things differently. Because once I do that and I get their attitude more positive and different, they're going to be performing under pressure better. Then if I've got a world-class forehand or a backhand or a serve, then I start putting Humpty Dumpty together. Then something good's baking in the oven, because I know I got this. And this is what I do. So that's the most rewarding, is changing someone's attitude.
That's very wholesome.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to hear you say that, because you're saying that your love for the game and for tennis and and building people and players, obviously.
And I lead by example. I haven't sat down on the tennis court in over 30 years. I don't sit down, so I lead by example. Okay. But I don't lead by example on purpose. This is just kind of how it is. So all these life lessons these kids can get from me, if they change their attitude. Okay. Because let's face it, there's so much negativity in the world. There's so much craziness around everybody. There's so many influences. And, a lot of parents want their kids just around that. And tennis can be a vehicle, to solve problems and stuff. So to me, that's really my calling. And the fact that I can lead by example and, not just like say it, but do it, they're kind of getting the daily double.
Yeah, no, for sure. So Rick, with the parents then, how do you deal with the difficult parents? What's your strategy? What's your secret?
Well, first off, everybody has to understand that at the end of the day, they're going to go home and eat with the parents when the door closes. You're going this way, they're all going that way. So the only way I've dealt with it, I educate the parents. I try to train them. I let them come on the court. I let them pick up balls. I let them get involved, because they're going to anyways. I'm just telling you how this stuff works. To think the parent's going to drop the kid off and go shopping, it ain't going to happen if they're serious. Okay. And I think the parent should be involved. The problem is this, and I need everybody to understand, if Rick Macci can take a deep breath, so can the rest of the world. They're out there telling me eventually how to hit the ATP forehand. And I was one of the first of the Mohicans to explain it and break it down, where it got 4 million views on USPTA. It's crazy, So you got to understand, I could say, you got to be kidding, bro. You're telling, I'm not like that. I disagree, just like I did with Richard. Let them have their way, and then you figure it out. You got to know how to deal with people. I educate the parents as much as the kid. And this is the art of coaching, knowing when to say it, why to say it, how to say it, who to say it to. I knew how to handle Richard, Capriati, Sharapova, Jim Pierce, Alex Kenin. You got to know how to do this stuff. But if you're going to take this approach, my way or the highway, okay, 3 bad losses, they're going down the street, because you can't fire the kid, but you can fire the coach. And that could happen anyways. So you got to have thick skin. You got to communicate with them. You got to agree with them, even if you disagree. And you got to educate them. Let's face it, tennis is one of the most difficult, easiest sports to coach. What I mean is, if you hit it in the net, the parent's going to go, hit it higher. I'm going, all right, that's good advice. Or if it goes out, more topspin. Okay. I mean, you can go, the kid didn't mean to hit it in the net. The kid didn't mean to hit it out. And I say, well, what'd you do at 11? In a nice way. And I go, I didn't even play at 11. Oh, they don't understand because they're so in the moment. The coach has to understand the parent means well. They're doing it out of love, and you got to educate them, but you got to do it with kid gloves, because at the end of the day, they'll play defense. And like I said, when the kid starts losing, because everybody wants their kids to play better people, be in better groups, win every tournament, and go undefeated. Listen, your kid's not going to go undefeated. You got to play people worse than you. You got to play people at your level and better, okay? Because the last time I looked, when you enter a tournament, you don't start off in the semifinals. You got to play the hamburgers, the cheeseburgers, the quarter pounders, the Whopper, then you get to the filet mignon. You got to go through that thing. But the parents don't understand it. But the more you educate them, and they can even use me as a sounding board, okay? I want people to, when you have nothing to gain, okay, and your kid wins easily, he's getting mentally stronger.
Yeah. So is it about getting the parents to buy into you and all,
that's what I do. I let them come on the court, pick up, because I learned long ago they're going to do it anyways.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because I think parents are always an interesting topic, because they'll obviously, especially in tennis, are so heavily invested, especially if they're part of the team or they've coached them before they've come to you as well.
Yeah.
You talked about Sofia Kenin being, quite explosive, I guess, in how she was. Like, she was clearly kind of left an impression on you. So what was she like to coach when she was younger?
One of my favorites of all time. Okay. She was the youngest one I've ever taught. Well, I teach kids this age now. She came to me at 5 years old. I had her till 12. She was number 1 in the nation at 12. I did a lot of videos with USPTA with her. I took her to a convention in Marco Island with me, and she took every ball on the rise, gave you a surprise, and would tear out your eyes at 7 years old. Her timing was impeccable. She had big swings because the racket was bigger than her. But her focus, a bomb could go off over there, she wouldn't even look. And I'm going, whoa, her focus is unreal. But she was tiny. But she was the scariest little kid I ever taught till now I have Vlada. I never saw someone that good. Okay. And here's what people need to understand. No one tried more drop shots from the baseline than Sofia Kenin that I ever taught. And I said, it's here on the wall somewhere, this little girl will have the best drop shot on the WTA tour someday. And you know what? Everybody agrees that her drop shot is one of the best on the tour. Okay. And so, because she missed, and every time her dad every time she missed, her dad go, why you do that? And she goes, because I want to, and that Russian, like, boom. And, I told Alex, you never say anything when she makes it. Listen, you can't have it both ways. I mean, Alcaraz has missed more drop shots than anybody. That's why he makes more, because whoever coached him as a kid didn't put the brakes on. When you miss a drop shot, everybody freaks out. But when you miss a ground stroke, it's like semi-freak out. I don't understand that. Coaches need to understand what I just said. So at the end of the day, she was amazing. Her mental box was already checked. I said at 7 years old, she will win a Grand Slam before age 20. I was wrong. It was 21. So I was in the neighborhood. With that one, but I knew where this was going because she understood the geometry of the court without me explaining. Always cutting the angles. She wasn't going to have the raw power maybe of Venus and Serena. She understood the geometry of the court. She knew how to cut the court. Listen, she beat Serena, later in Serena's career. So at the end of the day, she's had some rough sledding with injuries and other stuff. But if her mind is right, top 10's around the corner for Sofia Kenin.
Yeah, 100%. Why do you think she is struggling recently? Because she kind of seems to be back from injury, but she was obviously out for a while and then stopped starting. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, there was injuries and some life changes. Your life changes. You have different friends, acquaintances. When you're not all in, because listen, Kenin, remember what I just said? Bang. She had laser vision, all about the competition. Okay. Everything like Raducanu, everything changes around you. Okay. Different friends. Forget the money part. That's obvious. Things could get a little distracted. And if you blink a little bit, there's a fine line between winning and losing in pro tennis, especially with the women. It's a fine line, and you can disappear. So I think injuries and then things changed a little bit in her personal life. But I think she's back on track. I think once she starts winning a little bit more, okay. Remember, last year she beat Coco. She beat Sabalenka. She can still play. But when you win the Australian, people thought she was going to be, me included, a permanent fixture in the top 10. Okay. And the injuries made her go take a left turn. But I think she'll come back because nothing's changed, but everything changed around her. So once she gets back on track mentally, like I said, top 10 is definitely around the corner.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
You talked about injuries, Rick, and I feel like that's becoming more and more of a topic in the game. And I'm sure, at junior level, you might have noticed it as well. But with like the courts and like the different tennis balls, and there's a lot of people talking about why are people getting more injured as a packed schedule. What's your view on it?
Well, first off, the balls are an issue. That's number one. Believe it or not, you got to remember, you got, like all sports, you got bigger, stronger, faster athletes. The balls are going a lot faster and a lot heavier than even 5 years ago. That's crazy. Okay. So it's more physical. The points are longer, except at Wimbledon or even there. It's more physical. Okay. And then a lot of times you're playing back to back. So it's more physical and you're traveling. There's a mental part. Everything has gotten more and more physical, from the balls to the racket to the athlete. The court's the same. They've added more tournaments. So there's more injuries, which is crazy because you got more specialists, physio, you got all these specialty things to keep your body better. And maybe that is helping. Obviously it is, but there's more injuries than back in the day. But I just think it's physical. And you see that more and more in football and basketball and in baseball. A lot of this is biomechanics. I don't want to get into that. That's a whole nother podcast about how people are probably lifting weights and they shouldn't. That's a whole different thing I could get into. But I just think it's what we talked about. And that's what's causing a lot of the injuries. Then some of it's luck of the draw. I don't want to go into that. Some of it's genetics. I don't want to go into that. But it's that. It's more physical. It's the ball, the power, and the physicality, the stopping and the starting. And you're seeing more shoulder and arm and wrist injuries, and back. And it's just more physical. That's really the moral of the story. And the problem is I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel because everything's getting bigger, stronger, faster, more nuclear. You know what I mean? It's like advanced pinball on steroids, how everything's going. And you're sliding on hard courts. You couldn't picture that back in the day. You're hitting the brakes and you do it and, it looks good. So what does youth do? The youth tries to do it and they become big. and everything just keeps going like that, but nothing has really changed. So I expect more and more injuries to occur. I don't think you can blame it on the schedule. You see people resting more and the injuries are still there. I just think it's so much more physical. It's a very different sport than even 10 years ago.
Yeah, agreed. I really want to ask you about the weightlifting point, but we won't get into it because you said it's a different podcast. I wanted to ask about the courts then. Do you think the courts have a bearing on it? Do you think they've slowed down? Because I feel like in the past, and you'll know because you've got so much more experience than me, but I feel like in the past, clay, grass, hard court, there were very much clear distinctions between the three in terms of pace and conditions. Now I feel like they're getting more and more similar, and they're getting more and more similar because the faster courts have gotten slower. I don't feel like there's as many fast courts about, and obviously that then creates and feeds into the more physical points and rallies being longer, and obviously people are faster, stronger, etc., more athletic. Do you think that's also a big factor?
Huge. I mean, think about it. People go back to truck up here. They go Indian Wells. Oh, this court's great for Alcaraz. The ball bounces a little higher. He can grind more, but get the benefits of a hard court, with his firepower, but he can hang around longer and save the day. And you know what I mean? He doesn't get hurt as much if the court was a little quicker. It's maybe then when you went to Miami, it was back to back, the sunshine. So absolutely. And it's more for the fans and TV, longer rallies, more physical, better to watch. No one wants to see one and done or, boom, like back in the day, Wimbledon, the points were very quick. Now they're longer, but it's also the technology, you can hit the ball harder with more spin and it's all that stuff. But the court definitely has a lot to do with it because they've slowed it down and they are more similar. And what that means is more grinding, more longer points, not only on your body, but on your mind. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot to go because when you get tired mentally, that can also cause injuries. So there's a lot of cascading effects that kind of come into one.
Yeah, for sure. As a coach and a viewer, then, do you prefer it like this, or do you think it would benefit the tour and like the watching experience by having more distinct surfaces?
Well, I guess it depends on the player. If I was coaching them at that time, I would probably want this or that or this or that. So to me, it really doesn't matter because the tournament's going to do what they want. And sometimes it changes year to year. You put a little more sand in the court, the ball's going to bounce up more. You know what I'm saying? Or less sand, it's going to be slicker. You cut the grass different, in your neck of the woods. This changes a lot. And then the ball, it can fuzz up a little more or a little less. There all these things going. But to me, it really doesn't matter because it is what it is, and you got to deal with it. When you start getting into all these things, well, I don't like this ball, then it's going to become mental, especially if you're losing. You start complaining about the court. You got to remember, it's the same on both sides. The ball's the same on both sides. So that's a slippery slope. And I don't like anybody ever to make excuses. Your job description, all the coaches out there, tell the players it's simple. Run, sweat, and shut up. And it's maybe not in that order, okay, for some kids. That's your job description. Don't get into that other stuff.
That's fair. You're talking about one and done in quick points and someone who obviously was able to do that with his big booming serve was Andy Roddick. How was it like coaching him? And I actually read a while ago a really good article where he talked about his forehand and how he had an extreme Western grip forehand, and you thought about tweaking it and changing it when he was younger, and you didn't. You stopped yourself to actually know I'm going to keep it how it is. But how come you did that as well? I just wanted to get a gauge of what it was like coaching him and his style.
Yeah, first off, probably one of the greatest competitors I ever had. This guy was so feisty. He was like a mosquito. This guy would never leave me alone. Every time he lost, he would say, "Can I play him again? Can I play him again?" But as a coach, you like that. You want to come back for more. But I actually had his older brother, John, who was an All-American at Georgia, number 2. He got to finals, Australian Open Junior. great player, but had a back injury. He would have played on the Pro Tour. But Andy was the youngest of three. Their oldest, Lawrence, was a very high-level diver, and John was a great player. But Andy was a great competitor. He was a little pipsqueak at 12, wiry. But here's the forehand. When he took it back, remember, this was 1992. He took the racket back, and he kind of had the elbow elevated, where most people would go kind of like that. He kind of was nudging someone with the elbow back, like you see all the time now. And I'm going, this is different. And I actually tried to change it. So I'm going, whoa. But he led with the elbow. And then after I watched this for a while, the racket would stay on this side of the body. And when he did it, the racket flipped. And I'm going, wait, his racket's going faster and it's shorter. I'm going, but I thought he was using his wrist. I couldn't see it at the time. Obviously, I was much younger then. And I just said, wow, this thing's a weapon. But his grip was under a little bit. I moved it about that much to make it a little cleaner because he was way under. But I knew, I had no doubt his forehand would be nuclear. There's no doubt, because his contact point never deviated and the racket flipped and went faster on this side of the body. He had kind of the ATP forehand before people started talking about modern tennis and stuff like that. You know, I know Sampras had the elbow back. Lendl kind of did this. He kind of had the elbow even higher. But what it does, it keeps a racket on the hitting side. This acts like a brace. Takes a few more milliseconds to do it, but the racket flips down and back into the slot and it goes faster. So I knew his forehand was going to be amazing. And the racket just accelerated without him trying to accelerate it.
Yes, it's so interesting.
One of my all-time favorites. Listen, I love Andy Roddick, just because his thirst, I can say this, his thirst for competition was like no other. Just an amazing competitor. Now, this is for everybody listening. When he was 12, he was, I think, number one in the United States. I got him number one. When he was 14, he went to like 6. And when he was like 14 or so, he was like number 15. So he's going the other way because he didn't grow. And people were getting bigger and stronger. He was losing matches, not because of talent or maybe ability. They're just bigger. So people have to understand, it's not where you start, where you finish. Then he grew 7 inches, gained 20 pounds. His forehand went atomic bomb. His serve became just like a missile. And then he wins Junior Wimbledon at 18 or 17. And 2 years later, he wins US Open. Just because he had unreal competitiveness, the mental box check, brutal competitor, very few bad losses on the Pro Tour. I knew he wasn't going to be Sampras or Agassi, but I thought he'd be in the Courier neighborhood where he could grab 1, 2, or 3 Grand Slams. But he was in an era with Rafa, Federer, Nadal, Murray. I mean, there's some rough hombres there. So I knew he wasn't going to do that. But he beat all those guys, and he had a great serve, great forehand, but people don't give him enough credit. Unreal competitor, very few bad losses. Andy Roddick, one of my all-time favorites, just because he's a great role model of how he competes.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal competitor.
Unreal.
Yeah, and all-time serve for sure. I mean, unbelievable player. The last player I wanted to ask you about, and then we can dive into a bit of the Roland Garros if you want, was Jennifer Capriati, because I'm hoping I got the quote right. I'm hoping I've got it right, but I've got it here. So you're quoted as saying that her balance. So you coached from 10 to 14, from what I know, and he said her balance was so amazing she could rip a ground stroke with a cup of water on her head and both shoulders and not spill a drop. And he said she's one of your all-time favorites to generator. Is that the story true? Because that sounds incredible if that's the case.
Yeah, listen. I love Jennifer. You have no idea. She came to me at 10, and she kind of was a Chris Evert clone. She wore the Alessi like Chris. She had the Wilson racket, pro staff like Chris. what you want to get from Chris mentally, Chris Evert was a wizard, obviously, and had a great drop shot. And she was steady as a rock, ice in her veins. So those are good things. But I wanted her to be the next Jennifer Capriati. I moved her up to the baseline, tried to have her take the ball early. She had side spin on the forehand. I changed her to get top spin. Her backhand was poetry in motion, unbelievable. Her serve, she just got it in. I got it respectable up to about 112. A lot of exercises to dip it, flip it, and rip it, and top at the pop and all that stuff. I tried to get her loose, but her balance, because for 2 years, Jimmy Evert turn, step, hit, catch the follow through. Because this was probably like 7, 8 years old. Her fundamentals and balance were incredible. To this day, I haven't seen it because people are more off balance. I've never seen anybody so balanced. And she hit the ball in the middle of the racket. She could go a month and never hit the frame. I just never saw someone so balanced. Okay. And so that's one ball. You can have great balance, and work at Burger King. Or, I'm not saying that's going to make you a great pro, but her balance. So every time she hit the ball, her center of gravity was perfect and her preparation. So when she came to me, some of that was there. I just had to do the heavy lifting and build her game as a pro. She could hit it as hard as she wants. And she was always like in sync, like a skater. It's unreal. And I think you can picture that even on the pro tour. Her balance when she hit the ball, I just never saw anything like it. Obviously a little bit genetic, but it's also unreal coaching, probably stressing balance. But listen, to get someone great, you might have to say the same thing 20,000 times. And a lot of coaches don't want to do that, And so that's kind of was there. And then with the things I did, it just took it over the rainbow. But one of my all-time favorites, the nicest kid ever. When she won the national 18s, listen to this, as a 12-year-old, her mom and dad didn't even want me to have her play that. I mean, that's a big leap. 12 playing 18s. That record will never be broken. That's an 88, youngest ever. She not only won the hard courts, she won the clay courts. Okay. There was girls with driver's license and boyfriend, and here's this little pipsqueak, 12 years old. But here's why she could beat them. Mentally, she was a cut above, but she never gave up the baseline. So she's playing the ball. She's not playing some girl 6 feet tall, 150 pounds, because Jennifer was 5'4", 110. She played the ball. There was some Houdini escape. She beat 4 people, 3 sets. I remember it like yesterday. And when she won that match, finals, it's like, that's probably my top 10 experiences ever. Her shaking her hand and coming up and hugging me and Stefano, because it's unheard of what she did. And then at 14, she's top 10 in the world. And I knew you needed a defender. The movie, King Richard, okay? All this stuff is fair game. I get all that stuff. The poster child of whatever. But that's kind of overblown. But they should have done this. At the end, the credits, when you saw that footage at the end, epic footage Richard took, and they should have said about Capriati. She went from wherever to off the pro tour. Off. Back. Kind of in and out, 150, kind of like you see at Kenin, to 70, to 50, to 20, all the way back to number 1 in the world, 3 Grand Slams, Olympic gold medal, huge contract from FILA. Okay, huge. You talk about the comeback kid, the American dream, Rocky Balboa. Okay, and I'm even talking to some people about a docuseries about Jennifer. People don't understand. It's one thing to be amazing and then disappear. But it's to be amazing, disappear, and come back. That's good. But to come back to number 1 and beat Hingis, Kleisters, all these people, and win 3 Grand Slams and be number 1 in the world. People forget, or a lot of people don't even know that. That's the American dream. That's what people want, the comeback kid. That's why I love the generator. And She's always was very sensitive. The media they made her the poster child, which was unfortunate because people would rather report on negative stuff, but they should report on that. You talk about talent and ability and mental strength. When you're this top 10 in the world and then you disappear, and girls are going to probably be a little more sensitive with the media, and you come all the way back. And what I love about Jennifer, a lot of Rick Macci quotes along the way. At the end of the day, a winner finds a way. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. You got to believe if you want to achieve. I'm sitting there going, whoa, things are coming in. And that was put in her at a young age, and they're inside of her. So people got to understand how amazing Jennifer Capriati was as a player, because of not just becoming number one and winning all that. She disappeared and came back. That is, no one can say that. That's something that no one can really say.
Yeah, incredible comeback and story, as you say. Was she the best young talent that you've coached, Rick, do you think?
Say that again?
Was she the best young talent that you've coached, do you think?
By far. No one's even close. Listen, a 12-year-old Capriati would have beat a 12-year-old Serena 0-0. Okay? Venus would have scrapped maybe a couple games because Venus could serve at 12. Okay? But no, she was a wizard. She was a wizard. No, the ball was on a string. No one even close to Jennifer. Okay? But it's like, that's overrated, because you got to build the player. It's not where you start. As I said, it's where you finish. Okay? She did both. But yeah, there's no comparison. If you just look at the facts, when you're 12, you think a 12-year-old anywhere in the world could win an 18 national championship, especially in the United States? No way. Especially now, it's too physical with the rackets and the string. You'd get destroyed. So by far the best, but not only did she have the game, but she had the head. Okay? She had the head because she just loved the competition. She loved to compete. She had the best attitude ever. And all those little gold nuggets that were inside of her is why she came back and was the comeback kid.
Yeah, no, very well said. Just get a few words from you on Serena and Venus and just the legacy that they left behind in tennis. I mean, as a coach, when you had them, obviously you saw greatness, but did you think that they would achieve as much as they did in the sport, and also how they did it as well?
Another great question. First off, I knew they'd be number one. Okay. Early on, I didn't think Serena would be better, but as time went on, she had a little something of a pit bull inside of her. But then again, if she's the greatest ever, I put Venus at number two. It's not because Rick Macci coached them. It's because Serena won 19 times and Venus won 12. No one beat Serena more than Venus. And think about it, if Serena wasn't there, how many slams could Venus have had? She might be sitting there with 20. Venus was amazing. People forget how good she was, especially now she's still playing and maybe a step slow. Venus was so good. You have no idea, okay? Especially Wimbledon, she won 5. I'm in here in 1991 with the late Angela Buxton from your neck of the woods. I said, this little girl is going to win 5 Wimbledons someday. Bang, she won 5 Wimbledons. So did I think they'd be what they became? I knew they'd be number one. I knew. And I knew they would transcend the sport. Did I think they would become rare air and Serena win, 23 Grand Slams? No one can say that. Okay. But it's something that people, they don't understand. I don't think they don't appreciate. 2 sisters in the same house, sharing the same bedroom, from Compton, no money. Obviously, I took a chance and took care of all that part, but if you saw that again, which everything can happen, that's crazy. 2, let's let alone have 1, and then your little sister become even better on paper. You can't script it. And that's why there was a movie about it. You cannot script what happened. You can't. It's hard enough to get someone to number one, but have two and two that are iconic, okay, and in a predominantly white sport. There's many layers to this of why you shouldn't be able to. You know what I mean? That story alone, nothing to do with me, is a role model for everybody of all walks of life. If I can do it, you can do it. They weren't in the front row or the back row. They weren't even in the building, and look what they did with hard work, dedication, belief, and opportunity. Anything is possible. People should understand that. Whether you want to be a doctor, you want to do this, or if anybody tells you no, that should motivate you to be on the go, because this is what stops a lot of people, and the power of belief. You got to believe in yourself, because there's going to be problems. There's going to be failure. People are going to say no. You're going to fail. You're going to be sad. You're going to be mad. You're going to be depressed. Opportunity. The only time it's over is when you quit. Okay. And that's what I always loved about Venus and Serena, is I knew they were bulletproof. And if someone has that, I can put the rest together, and then good things are going to be happening.
Well said, Rick, for sure. Incredible legacy that they've left behind. Venus is still playing, as you said. So we'll see when she eventually hangs it up. But yeah, hopefully she'll be at Wimbledon. Will be amazing.
And on another note, there's something in the oven. We're still talking, but doing this docuseries, The Phenom Maker, with Venus and Serena. So there could be something in the oven for next year, and that would be a lot of fun if we do this together. It could be amazing. Just behind the scenes look about all these young players and the sacrifices and everything that has to be done. And if it happens, it's going to be amazing, because I'd be doing it alongside Venus and Serena and a production company. So that could be a lot of fun. We're on third base. It's not a definite, but I thought I'd share that with you. So stay tuned, and maybe next year that's going to be a reality.
Oh, amazing. That would be phenomenal to see that. So yeah, fingers crossed that happens.